Everything you know about samurai is a lie. Forget the katana, forget the honor duels. That's Hollywood fiction. Real samurai used bows, spears, guns, and collected severed heads for money. One strike, half a second, fight over. The truth is way more brutal and way more badass. Let's expose it. So first things first, let's kill the biggest myth right now. Samurai did not primarily fight with katanas in epic sword duels. I know, mind blown already, but here's the truth. For most of samurai history, their main weapon was the bow and arrow. That's right, the Yumi bow. Samurai were elite horse archers first, swordsmen second. In actual battles, samurai would ride on horseback, firing arrows at enemies from a distance. Close quarters katana combat, that was actually pretty rare on the battlefield. The katana was more of a backup weapon, a sidearm, like a modern soldier's pistol. Their primary battlefield weapons were the yari, a long spear, and the naginata, a curved blade on a pole. Why? Because in actual war, reach matters. A guy with a 7-foot spear will destroy a guy with a 3-foot sword before he even gets close. Samurai understood this. Hollywood forgot it. Now let's talk about armor and mobility. You've seen those beautiful samurai armors in museums, right? Ornate, colorful, looks like art. Well, that armor wasn't just for show, it was incredibly functional. Unlike European plate armor, samurai armor was designed for flexibility and movement. It was made of small iron or leather plates tied together with silk cords. This meant samurai could run, jump, swim, and ride horses while fully armored. European knights? They needed help just getting on their horses. But here's the thing, that armor had weaknesses, and samurai absolutely exploited those weaknesses in combat. Forget the Hollywood image of samurai slashing at each other's swords. Real samurai aimed for gaps in armor, the neck, armpits, inner thighs, and face. Brutal, precise, efficient. Samurai combat wasn't about flashy moves, it was about ending the fight as quickly as possible. One strike, one kill, move on. That's the reality. Let's talk battlefield tactics, because this is where it gets really interesting. Samurai battles weren't chaotic free-for-alls. They were highly organized, almost like chess matches. Before a major battle, samurai would often announce themselves. They'd shout their name, their lineage, their accomplishments. I am Takeda so-and-so, descendant of the Minamoto clan, slayer of... Sounds honorable, right? Noble warriors introducing themselves? Wrong. This wasn't about honor. This was psychological warfare. By announcing their achievements, samurai intimidated opponents and boosted their own reputation. If you killed a famous warrior, your status skyrocketed. But if you faced someone clearly out of your league, you could retreat without losing face. It was strategic, not ceremonial. And once the fighting actually started, forget honor. Samurai used every dirty trick in the book. Now here's something movies never show. Samurai fought in groups. The whole honorable one-on-one duel thing? Mostly fiction. Real samurai battles involved coordinated unit tactics. Ashigaru, the foot soldiers, would engage first with spears and arquebuses. Yeah, samurai had guns. Then mounted samurai would charge, not for sword duels, but to break enemy formations. They'd use bows, spears, and only switch to swords when absolutely necessary. And here's the brutal part. Wounded enemies weren't shown mercy. After a battle, samurai would walk the field, finishing off injured opponents. Why? Because taking heads was how you proved your kills and earned rewards. That's right, samurai collected severed heads as proof of their victories. The more heads you collected, the more land and money you received from your lord. Some samurai even had specialized servants whose only job was to collect and preserve these heads. Honorable? Not really. Effective? Absolutely. Let's talk about actual sword combat, because it did happen, just not how you think. Real samurai sword fights lasted seconds, not minutes. The concept was simple. One strike, one kill. They called it ichi no tachi, the single cut. Samurai trained for years to perfect the draw and cut technique called iaijutsu. You'd keep your sword sheathed until the absolute last moment, then in one fluid motion, draw, cut, resheathe. The entire encounter could be over in half a second. There was no prolonged clashing of swords like in movies. That's actually terrible technique. It damages your blade. Real samurai avoided blade-on-blade contact whenever possible. They used footwork and timing to evade attacks, then counterattacked to vital points. Cut the wrist, slash the neck, stab the throat. Fast, brutal, final. No dramatic speeches, no honorable bowing mid-fight. Just cold, calculated killing. Now here's something really wild. Samurai psychological warfare. These guys were masters of intimidation. Some samurai wore masks designed to terrify enemies. Demon faces, snarling animals, grotesque expressions. The famous Mempo masks weren't just protective gear, they were psychological weapons. Imagine charging into battle and seeing 100 screaming demons running at you. Terrifying, right? That's the point. Samurai also used war cries, the kiai, not just for intimidation, but to control breathing and focus energy. A sudden, explosive shout could startle an opponent, creating that split-second opening needed for a killing blow. Everything was calculated. Everything had a purpose. Now, let's address the Bushido code, because there's a lot of mythology around this. Bushido, the way of the warrior, is often portrayed as this ancient, unchanging samurai code of honor. Truth, Bushido as we know it was largely romanticized and formalized in the 17th century, during peacetime. During actual warring periods, samurai pragmatism often trumped honor. Betrayal was common, switching sides for better offers happened regularly. Surprise attacks, ambushes, and deception were standard tactics. The famous samurai Miyamoto Musashi once arrived late to a duel specifically to anger and unbalance his opponent. He then killed him with a wooden sword he'd carved from an oar on the boat ride over. Honorable? Debatable. Smart? Absolutely. Real samurai understood that surviving and winning mattered more than dying honorably. The romanticized version of Bushido came later when samurai became administrators rather than active warriors. And here's the darkest part of samurai culture: seppuku, ritual suicide by disembowelment. Movies show this as a calm, dignified act. Reality? Horrifically painful. Seppuku involved slicing open your own abdomen with a short blade. Then a trusted assistant would behead you to end the suffering. This wasn't done for honor in the mystical sense. It was often a way to avoid execution and preserve your family's status and property. If you were defeated or dishonored, seppuku let you die on your terms and protect your clan's reputation. Brutal, yes. Effective social engineering? Also yes. And finally, let's talk about the end of the samurai era. Contrary to popular belief, samurai didn't disappear because of Western influence alone. They adapted. When guns arrived in Japan in the 1500s, samurai embraced them immediately. The Battle of Nagashino in 1575 saw thousands of samurai using matchlock rifles in coordinated volleys. Samurai weren't stuck in the past. They were pragmatic warriors. The samurai class officially ended in the 1870s during the Meiji Restoration, but their influence never truly disappeared. Their discipline, tactical thinking, and martial philosophy influenced modern Japanese culture and military strategy. Even today, elements of samurai training appear in martial arts, business culture, and self-discipline practices worldwide. So, what's the takeaway here? The real samurai weren't the noble, honorable warriors Hollywood created. They were pragmatic, brutal, highly skilled professional soldiers. They used every advantage: bows, spears, guns, psychological warfare, and yes, swords, only when it made tactical sense. They valued victory over honor, results over ritual. And honestly, that makes them even more impressive, because they survived in one of history's most violent periods by being adaptable, intelligent, and ruthlessly effective. The truth about samurai isn't less interesting than the myth. It's way more badass. So next time you watch a samurai movie, enjoy it for what it is, entertainment. But remember, the real warriors were infinitely more complex, strategic, and frankly, terrifying. Drop a comment. Did this change how you see samurai? What surprised you most? And if you want more deep dives into historical warriors and the truth behind the legends, smash that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. The truth is always more interesting than the myth. Peace out.